Life is a journey. All of us are on our own unique path. I'm going to tell you about mine, from which there are lessons to be learned for all of us. On the 19th of May, 2010, I was a young man, 21 years old, living the dream. While studying at university, I was fighting on the England and Great Britain karate team, doing the sport I love. A lot can change in a day. On the 20th of May, 2010, I was told 3 words that would change my life forever. You have cancer. Blood cancer. Acute myeloid leukemia. The most aggressive form of cancer there is. If left untreated, manifestation to death takes just 6 weeks. Today, I'm going to talk to you about courage. Raise your hand if ever you've been given news that has knocked you off your feet. Doesn't have to be a serious diagnosis. Can be the loss of a loved one, something so profound that in that moment, our psychology knows that our life is going to change forever. When we process traumatic information of any kind, we feel isolated, vulnerable, and afraid. In those moments, it takes courage to ask a question. Who's ever been afraid to ask a question? All of us, at some point in our lives, have been afraid to ask a question in fear of sounding stupid or because we're scared of the answer. Think back to your time in school, college, university, the workplace. It takes courage to ask questions. The first rule of combat is know your enemy. I wanted to know my enemy. I sought to find out everything I could about this thing that was trying to kill me. I asked doctors so many questions, they later told me it felt like an interrogation. Worst case scenario, my chance of survival was 50-50. I'd have taken 1%. If we don't have courage to ask the question, we can't gain courage from the answer. People think fighting is all about how strong you are, how quick you are, how fast you are, how technically gifted you are. All those things are true. But more often than not, the outcome of a fight is decided by who adapts to their opponent best, who adapts to a changing set of stimuli. I was quite literally adapting to survive. The scary thing about cancer is it's hard to predict. We're having to constantly process the unknown, but we never know what's round the corner in life. None of us like change. We are all wired to find safety in comfort, but all of us have to adapt through change at some point. Perhaps we're moving house. Major upheaval. Perhaps we're changing jobs. Perhaps we're altering our career path completely. It takes courage to move through change. Everyone is facing a battle we know nothing about. If we're struggling with our mental health, if we're battling depression, it often takes courage to simply get up and face the day. In challenging moments, the connections we have, the human connections, are of vital importance. As an athlete, you're taught to do everything it takes, everything you can to maximize your performance. The right coach, nutritionist, psychologist, the right sleep, rest, recovery. Very quickly, I found myself creating an environment that was conducive to optimizing my survival. To paint you a picture, I was an inpatient. I had no immune system. I was confined to the same 4 walls, 15 foot by 10, often 6 weeks at a time. I was very much a prisoner. That's something we can all relate to, every one of us, through the COVID-19 pandemic. Some of us, myself included, went weeks or months without seeing a familiar face. That took courage. Whilst in hospital, I ensured I was never alone physically. And metaphorically speaking, I did the same thing mentally. I printed off huge photos of my friends, family, and loved ones. And I plastered the room with them. There were so many photos, so many smiling faces beaming back at me, you couldn't see the wall for paint. Not only was I combating those feelings of loneliness and isolation by reminding myself who was important, I was also reminding myself of the void that would be left by my absence to those same people. If ever you've captured a moment, sharing a memory with someone you care about, and it means something to you, I guarantee you it means something to them. In times of strife, it's natural that we recognize who is important to us, but it's also essential that we recognize that we are important to them. For those of us who have been at rock bottom, for those of us who have ever contemplated our purpose in life, for those of us who have questioned whether people will miss us if we're gone, it takes courage to back yourself. It takes courage to place value sometimes on your own life. Never underestimate the power of your relationships in moments of quiet desperation. People are a source of courage. The word encourage literally means to stimulate the development of courage in another. Some connections are more impactful than others. The first person to come and see me in hospital was my coach. He said to me, "James, it's just another fight." He said, "There is a seat for you on a plane to Las Vegas, to the World Karate Championships next year, whether you are fit to fight or come with us as a coach." I used to think that having a goal, having a target was everything. But having a goal, having a target means nothing if you don't have the focus to achieve it. How many of us have ever had a goal, had a target, and failed to achieve it? What's more, how many of us have set goals, set targets, and if we're honest, consistently failed to achieve them? It's because we're not inspired by what it is we're trying to achieve, and we aren't empowered by the people around us to achieve it either. My coach had encouraged me with focus. He had empowered me to look forward to the future. If we're passionate about a goal, and we source encouragement from people around us to achieve it, then you know what? We just might. In the next 6 months, I would undergo 5 rounds of chemotherapy. For those who don't know, chemotherapy has one job. It's to kill cancer cells. It's essentially bleach for cancer. Anyone who's had chemotherapy will tell you the side effects can be painful, unpleasant, and it knocks the stuffing out of you. Well, newsflash, so does life. I think it's important to view pain in context, away from the stigma attached to a word like cancer. Raise your hands if ever you felt sick. Raise your hands if ever you felt tired. Keep them raised if ever you've been scared. We've all been sick. We've all been tired. And we have definitely all been scared. Sometimes context requires courage. Perception is everything, but perspective is more. How we perceive a moment, how we perceive a challenge can make it seem insurmountable. But if we at least try to make sense of it, if we at least try to understand it through the courage to be curious, to adapt, and take encouragement from others, we can see opportunity from a new perspective. After 6 months in hospital, I was released into the world. Doctor's orders, stay home. no gym for a month. In the next year, or the next 6 months, I would graduate from university and I would fight for a world title in the States just like I had been incentivized. Sometimes we need courage in our convictions. All of us, at some stage or another, have been told by someone more senior, more superior, be it a parent, be it a senior family member, be it your boss, and thought to ourselves, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm not talking about those argumentative moments. I mean those feelings where in your bones, in your soul, whatever you want to call it, you know that you are right. Sometimes it takes courage to know yourself. Any cancer patient will tell you that there's always that feeling of looking over your shoulder thinking, what if? What if it came back and I'd done nothing? Survival wasn't enough for me. I wanted to succeed. I needed to achieve. All of us, survival should not be enough. We should all want to succeed. We should all want to at least achieve. In June 2011, my leukemia was back. Relapse. You know that feeling we get where we just can't catch a break? We have two options. We can either sit back feeling sorry for ourselves, asking ourselves, why me? Searching for an answer we are never going to get. Or we can find the courage to attack the situation and tell ourselves, we've been here before. We can do it again. Perhaps we're buying a house and it keeps falling through, no matter what we try. Perhaps we keep bouncing from bad relationship to bad relationship. Perhaps we're trying for a baby and we don't have much luck. We don't give up. We have courage to keep going. There is no finer margin than life or death. And this time, my life was in someone else's hands. I would need a stem cell transplant to survive. Best case scenario is a match sibling donor. I have one sister. She was a perfect match. Telling my sister that I needed her to save my life, putting that weight of responsibility on her shoulders, is the hardest thing I have ever had to do. But it takes courage to have difficult conversations. All of us, at some stage or another, need to communicate difficult conversations, whether it be with a friend, our partner. There is courage in conversation. And there is also courage in facing our fears to that effect. My sister is terrified of needles. She faints. She was poked and prodded with more needles in unpleasant places than I care to think about. But she faced her fears to save my life. 3 more rounds of chemotherapy, 6 doses of total body irradiation, that's radiotherapy, but everywhere, and 1 bag of my sister's stem cells. In 15 months, I had spent 286 days in hospital, and I was alive. Radiotherapy had damaged 10% of my lung capacity. That's to say, about the amount of oxygen you can fit into a can of Coke, my lungs could no longer breathe in. They said I would never compete again. In the next year, I defied odds and expectation to achieve fitness levels above and beyond those pre-diagnosis. 18 months after my stem cell transplant in 2013, I would represent England at a World Karate Championships and come home with a bronze medal. A feat I would repeat 2 years later. I had achieved something exceptional. All too often, people mistake courage with confidence. All of us, at one stage or another, have been told we appear confident in something we've said or done, even the most shy and retiring among us, when inside we are riddled with self-doubt and insecurity. What if I told you that whilst I might seem brimming with confidence delivering this message, I am absolutely bricking it, but I'm courageous enough to try. Not all of us feel confident. Some of us aren't even capable of it. But each and every single one of us has the capacity for courage. Through perspective intertwined with powerful human connections and a strong will focusing toward the future, we can find the courage to overcome any adversity. The more courageous we are, the more exceptional we are likely to be. My sister gave me a bracelet upon saving my life, and there is an inscription. It reads, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." Thank you.